This video is sponsored by Kiwico. More about them later. After a year of planning, weeks of labor, mud, rain, cement, and large machines on our front yard, the garage build is finally here! Woo! Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danie and I am so excited for two reasons. One is because we are finally sharing the first installment of the series that is going to take up a lot of space on this channel over the course of the next summer, the garage build. And two, because I have a very exciting announcement to make. I have been working very hard behind the scenes to create the launch of two new merch lines on my shop page. I collaborated with a really talented artist named Katarina, and together we came up with the Love Your Magic line and the Creative Chaos line that features all new Creative Beast designs. I'm actually wearing one of the pieces right now. This is the Love Your Magic, and I love it. And also, I have a new tumbler that's going to be great for keeping all your hot cold drink combos in. I think the coffee tastes better. It tastes like magic. I'm just so proud of every piece that we created. There are lots of fun color options. The quality is top notch. It's super soft, super wearable. And I made these lines because a lot of the times we attend to DIY in our worst clothes because we don't want to get our good clothes dirty. So why not have fun, wearable clothing to DIY in instead? Your DIY fashion deserves better, and I want to help you. So feel free to check out the full line. I have linked the store in my description box. There is some stunning pieces and I'm super proud of them. So thank you, Katarina, for helping to make my vision come to life. Also, if you are a part of my Patreon, you get a discount code on all the merch, which is also linked in my description box. But enough about me and more about me, because we are finally talking about the garage. A lot has happened, so this video is kind of going to be like taking us back to the beginning. I'm going to share all the steps it took to get where the garage is today, and we will be touring the space. I'll be giving you a little sneak peek into what's to come for the build plans. It's all very exciting, and this is going to be a journey, friends. So buckle up, DIY friends, because it's all beginning right now. Of course, if you are new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button and join this wonderful Creative Beast community. You don't want to miss out on any garage build series. So with that said, let's get into this video and let's talk shop. Editor, roll the tape. Boop. All right, friends, so like I mentioned, a lot has already happened with the garage. I'm going to get us all updated to the meow right now. Just as an FYI, this is not how I plan to film this entire series, but my partner and I didn't do the foundation or the framing of the garage ourselves. We did hire professionals to do it, but I did film all the steps because I thought it would be super interesting to share how a structure like this is built from the ground up. It's so cool, and it was just such an experience. So I really wanted to bring you through that experience. So we are going to rewind a few weeks back and we can just start from the beginning. Now, as a reminder, this is what the front yard area of my home looked like. We had a lot of unused yard and parking space, so it was just untapped space, and it just made so much sense to have this garage here. Especially when a lot of my world is about building. I was building out of this teeny tiny she shack, and I was outgrowing my studio space here. I'm outgrowing my she shack, and it was time to expand the possibilities of what you can do when you have a space to do it in. So the first step was to lay out where the foundation will sit according to our site plans, which is the orange spray there on the ground that you see. And essentially a team started to excavate for the footings. Now this can look different depending on where you live in the world or what you're building, but for us, we had to dig down 4 feet deep and 3 feet wide around the garage perimeter. What we were trying to do is dig deeper than the frost line, which is where the ground will freeze to under extreme cold conditions. And I gotta say, it was pretty cool because I never thought I would own a moat on my property. Like a true queen of her dirt mound. So inside this wonderful dug moat, we created our footing, which is basically a steel reinforced concrete slab. So these wood forms were built with steel bars in the middle, and then these awesome guys with a big concrete truck showed up and filled those frames with a bunch of concrete. And I'm not sure why it's so satisfying to watch things be filled with things, but it just is. And watching this process was really fun to experience. It's like sludge coming out of a big old tube. So once the footing was finished, forms were built on top to pour our concrete foundation wall. Now you can see there are a bunch of metal rebar inside this form to help reinforce the concrete to make sure it is super strong. And that form is just built out of wood, like plywood wood, nothing fancy, and it came together pretty fast. Now what I thought was super cool was that they added oil to the interior of the frame to act as a releasing agent between the concrete and the wood. When these forms are ready to be pulled away, it's kind of similar to using a mold release when you pour epoxy. I didn't know that that was a thing, like for releasing concrete, but if you knew, good for you. I did not. If you didn't know, then join the AHA Club.
Bing, 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 bing. Anybody binging?
But then essentially the same thing went down. A concrete truck rolled up, big old tube of concrete was pumped into the mold. Again, super satisfying to watch. It's funny because if you reverse that pour happening, it looks like a giant straw is just like slurping up a Frosty. I don't know. This is just where my brain goes, okay? Just have to share the weirdness. You know, I think it's funny. DIY friends, let's just take a quick break from our DIY shop talk to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Kiwico. So Kiwico creates super rad hands-on projects and toys designed to expose kids to concepts in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Each month, a new crate arrives with a new theme that teaches hands-on learning and fun. They have subscription lines for kids of all ages and interests, and even some for adults. You're given all the supplies you need, detailed kid-friendly instructions, and an education magazine filled with content to learn even more about the crate's theme, and they ship to more than 40 countries. I am such a fan of these crates because they inspire kids to see themselves as makers, engineering, and creating their own innovative designs and outcomes. Honestly, if we can inspire and encourage kids how to problem solve or innovate or just create, who knows what they will do tomorrow. So the crates I have here are the Eureka Crate and the Maker Crate. The Eureka Crate teaches kids how to apply principles of science and math to engineer solutions to make awesome things they'll love to use every single day. And the Maker Crate, whether you're 14 or 104, a first-time crafter or an experienced maker, Kiwico designs each crate to include a chance to experiment with a new technique, draw inspiration from real designs, and take pride in a finished product that's both fun and functional. Look how cool these are! I got to make this amazing musical box and I got to try my hand at marbling for the first time. I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. Imagine putting it on clothes or a fun hat. Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, these were so much fun to make, and even as an adult, these boxes feel like an invitation to inspire younger and older DIYers in the making. And the best part is Kiwico is giving me a special link that you can use to get 50% off your first month of any subscription by going to kiwico.com/DIYDanie and use the code DIYDanie. I have linked it in the description box. Check it out and let's work to empower kids to be fearless innovators of our future. Woohoo! All right, now let's get back to our own fearless project, the garage. All right, so once the forms were pulled away, this is what was left. Nice concrete walls. Look at that. You can actually see the steel bolts hanging out of the top there. These were placed 2 foot on center in our wall because this is what's going to help us install the main garage frame to the foundation walls. Now you'll see the spots with the wood on top, and then there's like these openings. Those are the areas where all the garage doors or the entryways were spec'd out. So we had a few spots in the garage door areas that didn't really fill properly, but it was fine because it can all be fixed later in the floor pour. The floor pour. But at this point, our foundation walls were done and our framers were set to come in and start framing out our garage. So In order for them to safely do that, we needed to backfill the foundation walls, which means taking all that dirt that they dug to make the moats and then fill them back up again. So our framers were literally 2 guys. They did the entire build. 2 people, 4 hands. And when I tell you how impressed I was with how fast they worked, I mean, like, I feel like I blinked and suddenly an entire build was formed. It's insane, it's insane. But Matt, our framing contractor, also had a telehandler. So it's kind of like a fancy extendable boom arm forklift. This thing was wicked. They built all the walls on the ground first and then used the forklift to lift the walls up and then move them into place. So you'll notice that the walls are covered in a wrap. This is called house wrap, and it's a vapor permeable air barrier, which stops air from blowing into the garage, but it also allows moisture to dry through it.
That's really interesting.
Now, where you put this could change depending on where you live in the world. We live in a heating dominated climate, also known as cold Canada. So we need to use a vapor permeable on the outside of the house so that the condensation can dry through the wall and come out. Now, I'm sure for people who work in residential construction, this is all in a day's work. But for me, never seeing any of this done before, I think it's super cool. I don't know. Does this stuff interest you guys? Because I think it's super cool.
This is so weird. I love this. It's so fun. I can't believe it's happening.
In literally under 2 days, the lower half of the structure was completely framed with the giant steel beams that ran from the front to the back, and all the joists were in place. And it's pretty cool because the entire frame was built with only 2x6 lumber. Just look how big just the main floor is to me standing there. Like, I knew this thing was going to be big, but it was starting to feel ginormous. And then at that point I was thinking, did we build this thing too big? Nah. The second floor came together really quickly as well. They got the 2 rake walls, which are our gable ends, and all the 4-foot knee walls put up before I could even get out there to film it, that including the plywood floors. At that point, they started piling up all the trusses. This is the roof support. So these are basically going to hold our roof up. And now these were built off-site by a specialty truss company to fit our garage specs. I did speak about this in my garage planning video, and if you missed that, I will link it up above. Then at this point, Matt started to use his fancy forklift to connect all the pieces together, then lift all of the trusses up into the air, and then he plopped them down on the second floor. This was the first time I was able to get up to the second floor and just really see the view from up there.
These lovely gentlemen are gonna start putting up the trusses by hand with no struggle. So they say. This is so fun. I feel like I'm in a tree fort.
It was truly magical. These guys just started picking up these trusses and then nailing them into place. That nailer that Matt was using was awesome. You just put up the truss and then bam, bam, in place. What's interesting is that these trusses were held together with these steel plates at all the connection points, and that's it. Like, could you imagine if that's how we built all of our furniture? just mending plates everywhere. So easy. Then once all the trusses were in place, they put 1/2-inch plywood sheets on top and bap them into place. I gotta say, Matt was fearless. Like, clearly this man has no issues with heights because he was just up there on the roof, placing these sheets in, nailing them into place in record time. I'm telling you, these guys do not take breaks. Like, the term get her done, I'm pretty sure was invented by framers. Like, they get her done. So all the framing was done at this point, and now the rest of the work was in her hands. And if you're thinking, wow, Danie, the hard part is done. Oh my dear, how wrong you are. The hardest parts haven't even begun, but I'm ready for the challenge. So the next step was to prep the garage floor pour. And before anything could be poured down, Jeff and I now had to prep the foundation walls. So to maximize the thermal efficiency in our garage, we needed to insulate our foundation walls. So we started measuring and mapping out where our floor was going to sit and make chalk marks all along the foundation wall. Of course, it had just rained, so it was a muddy mess in there, but to insulate, we were adding 2 layers of 1-inch Rockwool Comfort Board 80 on the inside and 1 layer on the outside of the foundation wall. So this one insulation is a rigid stone wool insulation board that is vapor permeable. It allows fast outward drying and it reduces thermal loss, resulting in improved long-term thermal performance. Honestly, what's great about this insulation is that it doesn't rot or cause fungi or mildew growth. It has a low moisture absorption, it repels water, and it's literally made out of rocks. So putting it in the ground is no problem. So I had to cut the insulation into 24 by 16 inch squares. So I cut a wood template and I simply just placed this on top and was able to score the insulation, and it would just break away really easily. When you're working with insulation, you need to wear gloves, a face mask, and ideally long sleeves because this stuff can get very itchy. So you just kind of need to prep yourself before you start working with it. Working with this was super easy though. And when that was done, we removed all the dirt along the walls that we could and then used a little caulking just to hold the first layer of insulation in place because it kept falling down. And then for the second layer, we offset this so that it would overlap the first layer. Basically, anywhere there was a gap becomes a weakness in your insulation. So by overlapping the layers, we're just ensuring that no heat can escape. Then to secure them into the wall, I was using a masonry drill bit to pre-drill a hole into the concrete. Then using a washer and a Tapcon screw, I secured the 2 layers of insulation right into place. And essentially we just kept doing this all the way around the garage until it was completely finished. So like I mentioned, we are going to be doing the exact same thing on the other side of the foundation wall, except this time we're going to be placing it up just a little bit higher because on the inside, we can only put it so high so that we don't see it above our floor, which would look icky. So we can cover that section on the other side of the wall and cover it, which will make sure that we have a full foundation wall insulated as best we can. So now you're all cut up. And as you can see, so much has happened in just a span of a few weeks, but Jeff and I are now going to be taking over and doing all of the rest of the work ourselves. So this is going to be filmed in real time and shared with all of you as we work through this process. But I just thought it would be kind of fun to take you on a little tour of the now and then share some of my vision for what's to come. So let's go outside and let's talk shop. I'm also gonna change because we gotta show off all this cool new merch.
So this is where we're at. Come on in. So let's go to the man door and then we'll kind of do a full tour of where everything's at and what's the plan. This way. I feel like we're on Garage Cribs, but like it's not there yet. You know? We got the full garage up. It's 24 by 38 feet. She's quite large, which is funny because on paper I was like, this thing isn't gonna be that big. And then we built it and I was like, oh boy, this thing is gigantic. So we have the man door here. So this is going to be the access from the front. And then we're also going to have a fence line that's going to run from here to the edge of the house. And basically this is where the new backyard's gonna be. Then She Shack is going to eventually come down, but as you can see right now, it doesn't need to. We're okay. It can stay put for the time being. And then we have this 6-foot mini garage door, I guess we're gonna call it. And this is going to be the backyard access, ways we can get our lawnmower in and out, and I'm calling it Kenobi's door because this is basically going to be Kenobi's way into the garage and out. Come into the workshop. So before we go any farther, there is one question I got asked a lot in the planning video that I want to address, and that is the plumbing. Everyone's like, where's the bathroom? Where's the plumbing? There isn't going to be any, which I know, I'm with you all, but unfortunately there is a lot of complications when it comes to getting plumbing into this garage. So what we're doing is we're making plans for the future because once the garage is built and it's ready, Jeff and I have big plans to knock down the east side of our house, and then we're actually going to create a breezeway that's going to connect the garage to the house. And when that happens, it's going to be a lot easier to connect all of the plumbing. It's just very complicated with where it's at, where our septic tank's at and all that stuff. I'm not gonna get into it, but no, there isn't going to be a bathroom here. It's not great for right now, but there is future. But we're planning for that future. We've made plans for the plumbing. It's just not gonna be happening today, tomorrow, or within the next few years. Let's move on. All right, so right now, the garage looks like a giant mud pit, which it is, but as of tomorrow, actually, there's going to be a ton of stone put into here. It's gonna be compacted down, and then we're gonna be getting a ton of concrete. So once the concrete is poured, it's actually going to be up to this line. So I'm down very low, but realistically, by the end of this week, I'm gonna be standing here, right here. Basically, right here. That's a massive difference. So that's how much our floor is gonna come up. Isn't that insane? Also, isn't it insane? Check this out. So we have 2 steel beams that are in here right now. And look how many 2x6s are needed to hold these steel beams up. That's a lot of friggin' lumber. I don't know, I just think it's kind of cool. I think it's cool to see how things are built, you know? In the third bay, which is right here, this is where the workshop is mostly gonna be. So in the middle here where I'm standing, there's gonna be a giant cabinet saw, and then there's gonna be a giant 360 access table. So a table that you can walk all the way around and still have access to your project. It's great, good news. Then on this back wall, we're gonna have full storage. We're probably gonna have a lot of tools here, maybe the miter saw set up. We're gonna have, a drill press. There's gonna be a welding section in this back wall. You guys just saw me build that giant storage cabinet, the apothecary style. That's probably gonna go on this back wall. And then in this middle bay, we're basically just gonna leave it open. I wanted this space for access to be able to DIY. And then over here is what I'm calling kind of the home and lawn care section. So our lawnmower is gonna be here. Anything that we need for the house is gonna be on this side. Jeffrey does a lot of automotive stuff, so I figured his automotive stuff can be over here and also kind of in the middle section. So that's what's gonna be on this side. Should we go upstairs? I think that's good. Oh yeah, no, this is good. This is good. This feels safe. All right, guys, you next. I got you. We're upstairs. So we come up the stairs. We're gonna pretend that there's a door here, and we're gonna open the door, and we come up to the upstairs studio. Obviously, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done up here. We have open trusses and open ceilings, and the dormers need to get closed up, and we need windows and walls. We really do only have the framing done at this point, so there's still a lot of work to do and a lot of work ahead of us. But I think it's really cool to see it in this bare bones. It's really a way into seeing how things are built and what goes into making structures that we live in on a day-to-day basis. You're gonna see that it goes straight and then it starts to taper down. So this is called a gable style house, and you probably see this in lots of houses. It's in my house, but we made the best of it, and we actually got our knee walls, which is this wall here. This is our knee wall, 4 feet high, and that's why we had to get our variance to allow us to get this knee wall heightened. So we have 8 feet across before the roof starts to taper downwards. So I feel like I still have a pretty good amount of room, especially considering, again, I want a big table in the middle of this space that's gonna be like a 360 access, which I think is gonna be so great. Here, there's going to be a wall that's just gonna close up this space. My goal for the upstairs was to make sure that A, there was lots of light, but also because we have that gable style ceiling, I wanted to make as many walls as possible. So because I wanted a lot of wall space, it's why I opted not to put a window on this wall, just so that I would have at least one wall upstairs that would give me lots of space to be able to either film against or shoot photography against. or just have the option. And then we get into the 2 dormers. So these windows are quite huge. So what they're gonna be is a quarter, half quarter casement style. So there's gonna be like a small quarter size window here, a big full window here, and then a small quarter size window on here. And then basically I'm gonna be able to open up both sides, and then the window area in the middle is gonna just be like stationary. This is what I love about this space. Check out this view. But what's really awesome is that this window faces east, this window faces west. So I get the sunrise on this side of the morning, and I get the sunset on this side in the evening. And it's so glorious, and it looks so beautiful when it's coming up over that hilltop. So I just think it's gonna be epic. So then coming into this section here, the plan is to put up a partition wall that's gonna chop this section in half. So I'm hoping to do a whole partition wall that's gonna basically take this whole section and segregate it from this section here. Take a door and offset it a little bit. And basically this is gonna be access to the new office space. So there'll be a desk in here, there's gonna be a computer, maybe a section for somebody, like a little desk for somebody else if they're here working with me. And then on this side, there's gonna be basically like a little storage area. So because this is a studio space, and because there's going to be filming downstairs and then people walking upstairs, we're insulating the crap out of this house. So it is not only going to be very warm, it's going to be so insulated that you're not even going to be able to hear a pin drop. Okay, so I think that basically summarizes what's going on up here in a general form. So let's go back downstairs, and then we'll talk about what's going on exterior wise. We are going down the stairs safely. Come on! So we're back on the main floor. Essentially, the plan is to cover this entire building with steel. So we're gonna be doing steel siding and a steel roof, which is great because it means we're literally never gonna have to replace it. In terms of color and what that steel looks like, I'm not sure yet, but stay tuned because I'm gonna be bringing you guys along for that ride. And we have our insulation for the foundation right now, but as of tomorrow, we're gonna be getting stone put in, and then the cement is gonna be poured. And then once the cement is poured, we can finally put the stairs back in. And once the stairs go in, we can put the windows in. And once the windows go in, we can get the roof put on. And once the roof puts on, we can get the siding on and all the rest of the insulation and electrical. And we're doing that all ourselves. So I hope you guys are ready because there's a lot of content coming your way. Let me know, what are you most excited for? What are you hoping to learn? What can I help you learn? And what are we gonna learn together? Because I feel like I'm gonna be learning so much, and I'm very excited to bring you guys along with me. Of course, sending so much love to my Patreon family. If you're looking for a community of DIYers to help you through your garage builds or give you advice on your shops, then my Patreon is the place for you. Sending a big thank you again to the sponsor of today's episode, Kiwico. Use the link and code in my description box to get 50% off your first subscription, so go check it out. And of course, do not forget to check out my brand new merch line. We have the Love Your Magic and the Creative Chaos, Creative Beast new line. It's all linked in the description box. Of course, my friends, as always, stay positive, stay creative, and keep on DIYing. Bye-bye.